And we are live. What is going on, everybody? Here at Talk Shop Live. I am so pumped. I'm so pumped to be here today. I am so excited. Get your questions in. Going to tell you all about what we are doing. Also, put in the comment section what you are drinking. Want to know what you're drinking? Gotta know. Gotta know. If I do not see what you're drinking, I will not know what is what to say about it. So put in the comments wherever you are listening from, what you're drinking. Want to know. And by the way, listen, I got people coming. I got Tim said he ordered a signed copy of Bottom Shelf. Mark ordered one. Michael, Rosabella. Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. All these people coming in saying that they ordered a copy of the book. So absolutely awesome. So some details for you. If you are wanting to let's see here. Starting out on Instagram. Here we go. Let's do this. Sam, I got Sam here in Instagram? Good to see you, Sam. Let's see who else we got coming in here. Got Jeffrey in, got Bob, got Sean, Donnie. Let me know where you're watching from. What's your favorite bourbon bar in that area? Love to know. Love to know. And I'm sipping on a little bourbon right now myself. Sipping on a little bourbon here. Let's see here. Okay. All right, I've got people coming in all over. Stuart thanking me or congratulating me on the new book. A little bit about what tonight is I'm going to be talking about my new book, Bottom Shelf, how a forgotten brand of bourbon saved one man's life. I am Fred, obviously, and I'm the man. The forgotten bourbon is Old Crow. We're going to get into that a little bit. Now, some call to actions for you. I'll be repeating these throughout the night. If you are watching on Talk Shop Live, click the shop button. If you want a signed copy of the book, basically how it goes, you order a book, and it'll come with a signed book plate. If you are watching on Facebook or Instagram, comment the word shop for links in the order. So if you want to order, click comment shop in the Instagram or Facebook live feed. If you are watching on YouTube, just click the link in the description. So it is good to see everyone. Now, I want to tell you all a little bit about myself and kind of how I got into bourbon, and basically what ended up leading to this. This is my baby. This is my heart and soul. This is Bottom Shelf, and I want to thank everyone from Talk Shop Live for having me. If you've taken a look at the list of all the prestigious authors that they've had, it's pretty incredible, like how many people that they have had in Talk Shop Live doing book events, or selling their Tupperware, selling all kinds of stuff. It's like a really prestigious place for people. John Tyler Smith asks, like, how's your eyes? So for those who follow me, you probably know that I had eye surgery recently. And I'm coming off of 2 months from both of my eyes having my lenses replaced, and they're pretty good. I'm able to walk around. I can see better than I've ever seen before. So pretty cool. And I'm getting notification of all you all buying these signed copies of Bottom Shelf. This is incredible. Michael, thank you for buying 2 signed copies. Bob S., thank you for buying a copy. Andrew, thank you for buying a copy. Looks like Bob S. ordered another one. JJ, thank you. Kim, Timothy, Brandon G, Kevin M, Eliza, Scott, thank you all so much for buying signed copies of Bottom Shelf. This is gonna be a fun night. I can already tell. You all are like just I'm about to tear up over here seeing like how many people are ordering books as I'm just like even just turned on the live stream. This is absolutely awesome. I cannot tell you how awesome this is. Wow. Uh, I'm seriously, I'm getting kind of emotional here. Uh, Philip B. I think if it's the Philip B, I think it is. Good to see you, Philip B. Philip B's having a pour of Wild Turkey Rye, the Club Marzipan pick to celebrate today. That's awesome. So, about today, so today is Repeal Day. It is on this day, December 5th, 1933. Basically, this was the 21st Amendment. They got enough votes to ratify the 21st Amendment, which essentially repealed the 18th Amendment, which was prohibition, which basically ended the sale of alcohol. So today we celebrate that. I actually write a lot about that in Bottom Shelf. So I cover kind of how I got into bourbon and Bottom Shelf and how I, was how I recovered from Iraq, the Iraq War, and how I essentially, bourbon became like this obsession of mine. And I'm going to get in that a little bit more as we kind of have some more folks pop in. But get your questions in. So it's saying I am not live on Instagram. Okay. All right. So what is up with that? Go live. All right. So now I'm on live. I should be live. All right. Am I live now on Instagram? I think I'm live now on Instagram. Okay. Well, it is good to see everyone out there. We should be streaming now on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram now, and of course, Instagram and of course, Talk Shop Live. If you're not already, subscribe to my channel on Talk Shop Live. I hope this isn't my last little event to do here. Very excited to be talking about my book. Bottom Shelf. So if you would like a signed copy of Bottom Shelf, if you are on Facebook or Instagram, simply comment the word shop for links to order. If you are on YouTube, click on the link in the description. And of course, if you are on Talk Shop Live, click the shop button. So Brian S. from Hard Truth says, congrats from everyone at Hard Truth. Great whiskey over there at Hard Truth. Thanks so much. Christopher C. says he's from Fredericksburg, Virginia, drinking a little Bowman single barrel, Semper Fi. All right. Cheers to the Marines out there, Christopher. Cheers. I'm just an old Army guy. That's good. I got Margarita in the house. So excited to see Margarita here. So Adam J asked me what inspired my new book, Bottom Shelf. And truthfully, I was wanting to. Great question, Adam. When I wanted to write a new book, but I didn't want to write another guide, and I didn't want to write like just another like just flat history. And so I was working with my agent, and I had these several ideas, and I basically had two ideas. One was like how I got into bourbon, and another one was like how I was, hunting this brand called Old Crow. And he's like, why don't you, these are both great ideas. Why don't you put these together? And it became like kind of like fusing it together. And that's really, you hear from people all the time, a great team, really makes people. And I'm telling you that this book, my acknowledgments in this book, Bottom Shelf, are thick. Like, because like this book would not have happened if I didn't have the courage to talk about my PTSD from the Iraq War and how I recovered from it. And I know, and I would not have had I would not have gotten there if not certain people, trying to get me to tell my story. And that's a shout out to my manager, like Clay Bush, to my publicist, Rebecca, Olivia, Jacqueline. They were like, you should be telling your story because you could help other people. And I was really nervous about talking about the taste mindfulness experience that basically led to me becoming a taster, because I was very afraid of like people saying like, "Oh, well, you're just out there trying to get people to be alcoholics." And when I got into when I started talking about it, I actually had therapists reach out to me and say, "Hey, you are helping people." And so it gave me courage. My team gave me courage to be able to talk about what I overcome. And I'm telling you, you know, yes, it's a bourbon book, but this is my journey. This is my like heart and soul of basically how I found myself at the very bottom. I mean, we call it the bottom shelf, but I was on my deathbed, and my wife picked me up, literally picked me up. You will read about this, and I wouldn't be here if not for my wife. And I'm going to tear up here, but it comes out February 17th, but which is kind of like, to me, kind of coincidental, because I look at this book as a love story to her, because without her I wouldn't be here. And I talk about that, and I talk about how special she is to me, and how I became obsessed with bourbon, kind of like all in one. So that's kind of like what what it's all about. Grace asked the question, how did your family react when you told them you wanted to share your intimate details of your darkest chapters? Very supportive. My entire family has been incredibly supportive. Great question, Grace. But my family has been really supportive, and I would actually extend this further out, to the bourbon community, and my Club Marzipan, my YouTube community, all have always been supportive. Even extended out, Kenny and Ryan with Bourbon Pursuit. Everyone has always been there for me. Evelyn asked, "Does your wife like bourbon as much as you do?" Actually, Evelyn, yes. She does have certain brands she likes more, but she was a connoisseur of bourbon before I was. And that's something I talk about in the book. And it's a fun story. We're out on our first date, and she is basically, she orders a Maker's Mark on the rocks, right? She orders this Maker's Mark on the rocks, and I'm like, I'd never been on a date with a woman who ordered bourbon before. I mean, I'm in my mid-20s, just got home from Iraq, and she gets a bourbon on the rocks. I'm like, whoa. First of all, that's hot. And second of all, I'm very like into this. Like, I'm like, I feel like I need to be fancy now. And so I ordered a Pinot Noir. But true story. Christopher C says our spouses are instrumental in getting us through dark times. That's without a doubt true. I'm going to take a look at some other questions. But as a reminder, if you would like to get this book, you would like to get a signed copy, you can get a signed copy tonight. It will come to you when it is released. There'll be more details about that when you purchase it. But if you are on talkshoplive.com, right, or Talkshop Live right now, just click the shop button, and it'll get the link right there. You can get the book. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, comment the word shop for links to order. And if you are on YouTube, just click the link in the description. So if you'd like a signed copy, and it will get out, you'll get it as soon as it's hot off the press. And let's see. Cleo asked the question, did the writing process itself become therapeutic? You know, I would say my very first book was like a therapy book, and that was Camera Boy, and that was specifically about the stuff in Iraq, and that was while I was actively in therapy in some ways. That one was very, very therapeutic. This one was therapeutic, but I reveal things in this book that I didn't in Camera Boy because I was not prepared or in the right time, um, to basically talk about those things. This one is like for me, this book is empowering. It was not. It was absolutely therapeutic to write, but for me, it emboldened me to appreciate what I what I had been through and the support I had. Like I could not be here without the support of my wife. I could not be here without the support of an incredible team. And I don't know, when you're a writer, you don't really get a lot of you're not in a lot of team environments. And I come from like, the military. I love the team and all that stuff. And so that meant a lot to me to be able to have that ode to them. But it also was like you gotta understand, like it's part of it's the therapy side. The other part of it is the hunt of Old Crow and trying to understand what the hell happened to Old Crow and digging into who James Crow was and finding out what happened to Old Crow under W.A. Gaines and National Distillers and why Jim Beam, turned it to shit. I it for me it answered a lot of questions for me. It answered a lot of questions for me that gnawed at me like all the time. So yeah, I think it was probably more therapeutic on the bourbon side than anything, because sometimes the bourbon industry just really has pissed me off throughout my career. There's so many lies, right? There's just like they make up so much shit, and I've spent so much time kind of like unraveling like all these like lies in the bourbon industry, and that's what a lot of of bottom shelf is. I mean, in my book, Bourbon: The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey, I blow up a lot of different folklore pieces, and in here I feel like I answered a lot of questions about Old Crow. We've all been asking for 2 decades, and it was really fun to find that information and tell that story. Henry A asks, "Are there other bottom shelf bourbons that deserve a second look?" Oh, great question, Henry A. Mm. Henry, I'm going to ask you to clarify that for me. Do you mean to drink, or do you mean to tell their history? And while you're thinking about that, and put it in the comments, and use a question mark when you do it, because that's the only way I can see your question. Um, Stuart asked the question: Is there any part of your journey you would do differently? Boy, Stuart, that's a really, really good question. Um, I probably, I look, I was early in my career, and this is something I actually bring up in bottom shelf. I cite this, I talk about it, and I was like, and I caught myself becoming too much of a bourbon nerd, um, and not going out and having fun, right? I would be so focused on wanting to know the truth about things or wanting to interview people, things like that. Um, that I would be in archives and libraries and be and reading, and I wasn't. There was a time where I was not experiencing like the bourbon culture. I was just trying to tell the story of it. And once I realized that I was being like that, I was like, I quickly corrected it. And if anything, the COVID couple years self-corrected it. It just happened to be I was drinking every night with you all on the live stream versus in person. But man, who here did not spend time with me on a live stream back then and just think to yourself, man, this is a hell of a time. That was so much fun. I had so much fun doing those live streams, you know. just absolutely enjoyed it. By the way, is everybody able to everyone able to chat with where they're at? Because I'm seeing a lot of questions come in. If you're asking me a question, make sure you use a question mark, because I won't be able to see the question without the question mark. Henry A asked a question before: is there a bottom shelf bourbon that deserves a second look to drink? Well, um, so Old Crow is the big one, right? And I wouldn't say go and buy Old Crow today. The Old Crow today pretty well stinks. But the stuff in the old days was really, really good. So to drink, I'd say what's something that was really, really good? So Kentucky Tavern today I think stinks. But back in the old days it was great. So that is one that I would definitely take a look at Kentucky Tavern. And as a reminder, if you are just jumping in, this is my new book, Bottom Shelf. It's a memoir. It's my life story and kind of how I got into bourbon, how I became a taster. And if you would like to get a signed copy, and you're on Talk Shop Live, click the shop button to get a signed copy there. If you are on Facebook or Instagram, comment the word shop for links to order. If you are on YouTube, click the link in the description. So let's get to some more questions. Jason, with a Y, asks, how does this book rank in all the books you've written? Does it hold more meaning? Jason, this is absolutely the most important book I've written for two reasons. One, I'm able to give the appreciation to the love of my life that the other books, I obviously could not do anything like that. But when people often comment on the bond I have with my wife, I hope now they'll see why. And two, I feel like there has been a great mystery in bourbon. There's been a great mystery since I entered the bourbon world, probably really since the late '80s, and that is what happened to Old Crow. And I'm able to tell that story and kind of solve that mystery. And for years, historians have just beaten up Jim Beam for what they did to Old Crow. And this book tells you what they did, why they did it, and kind of I give some theories behind it. And I don't really think that I don't think they come out looking like bad guys from it, to be honest with you. I look forward to you reading that part in the book, obviously. But it's also I also kind of talk about like what it's like to come up the ranks in the bourbon world. And it's just there's just so much to it. So it just this one's very personal. And I wanted to be personal because it's the only way I could tell this story. It's the only way I could tell the story. And so I think for that reason, it is um, it is probably the most important book I've ever written for me from a personal perspective. Now, in my obituary, who knows? I don't care. Like all I care about is if I'm a good dad and a husband when I leave this world, and I'm able to kind of show some of that of like what it's like to be a dad in this space. And that's some of the personal stories I share. Yeah, it's funny, like trying to like talk about this without like choking up, because it's like it is a very emotional book. And I happen to be reading the book right now for Spotify for the audio version. And it's just like I'm over, I keep going over and over of I keep crying up on them because it is very much uh it's very much emotional. Alex, you've influenced the market in so many ways. Did did writing about your impact, like sending Old Crow prices skyrocketing, feel strange or surreal? It did. I poke fun of myself quite a bit. You know, I absolutely make fun of myself, and like I get it. I kind of get why. Um, it is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how I became the guy And I talk about this in the book. Like, I mean, I trained my palate. I got myself to be in this position to talk about stuff, and I talk about what it's like dealing with haters, talking, having people make things up about me. I've had people impersonate me in liquor stores, and I talk about that and what it feels like. And I'm like, I still to this day, I accept it and I can handle it and I can cope with whatever anyone brings at me, but I still don't understand how it became me as like the guy that said like if I like something, people are gonna go buy it. I'm honored, I really am. I'm honored, but I still don't know what it is. Maybe it's because like I tasted marzipan that one time. So again, if y'all just joining, if you all would like me to read from the book as well, I've got full on permission to read from the book. So just a reminder that if you would like to buy a signed copy of Bottom Shelf tonight, like this is my memoir, it's my heart, my soul. Just click shop on Talk Shop Live on the Facebook or Instagram. Comment the word shop for links to order. And if you are watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. And I hope this is not my last event on Talk Shop Live. So make sure you follow me over here on Talk Shop Live as well. I'm going to answer another question, and then I'm going to think about a spot to read from in the book. Whiskey M asked the question, what keeps you in the bourbon community? Everyone seems to have their journey chasing allocated bottles, then moving on to the other phases. So what keeps you engaged? Well, Whiskey M, I'll be honest with you. It is the people. It is the people. I would dare someone to find me another industry where people help one another like we do here. Like when we had the tornadoes and the floods in Kentucky, there 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 will be there were so many bourbon people who lined up and said, "Let me donate a barrel. Let me donate a bottle. What can I do? What can I buy?" We raised like $7 million. $7 million. And I've seen other charities in the wine world, in beer. They couldn't even touch us. So, and I think that's what it is like the people in the bourbon community are a community. And I understand, we've all gone through the phases of like chasing allocated products, and we've all gone through the like, oh, well, I'm done, or F that. And I went through that. I've went through that a time or two as well in my own way. I mean, I've always covered bourbon, but there were times that I was like, man, this is kind of annoying. Some of the stuff annoys me. And I talk about that in the book. One of the things that really bothered me was when I was a consultant as buying and selling vintage spirits. I hated negotiating with people. To me, the monetary gains of bottles is kind of what makes bourbon not fun. And so when you are in that chase, when you are in the monetary equation of bourbon, whether you're a retailer or you're a flipper or you're someone who just wants to get the best bottle you can cheap, to me that can lead to like burnout real quick, or at least over time. If you want to, study it, or if you want to jump into the history of it, which I hope you do. I mean, I hope that's why you're here. I mean, I feel like that is what will um that is what will keep you having fun and enjoying it and being around people who are like that. But if you're just with people who are like, "Oh, you got that for $100, I got it for 60." You're going to burn out real quick. I'm going to find a chapter to read. I'm gonna see. I can't read you chapter one because that's the kind of it's a little too explosive. So, um, let me see what I want to read here. Let me see. You know what? I will read you chapter one, but not the introduction. And it's actually a story. It's actually a story that I think a lot of people um have heard before, or in some capacity. It might be too long now. I'm trying to find a nice little spot here. While I'm looking, I'm going to answer Mike W's question. Fred, do you suspect that there will ever be a revival that brings Old Crow back to prominence? I tell you what, if you all buy this book and you tell your friends about Bottom Shelf and you tell them the real story of Old Crow, I think that we together can bring back Old Crow to its prominence. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description, click the link to it. If you're in Talk Shop Live, hit the shop button, or if you're on Facebook or Instagram, click shop. But we absolutely need to band together to get people to understand what Old Crow was. And this book tells it. I mean, yeah, if you want to skip all my personal story, you can go straight to, you know, half the book, half to three quarters of the book is Old Crow history, who James C. Crow was, all that stuff. And my personal stuff is put in there in between and everything. Kind of weaves the story together, if you will. But this book, I feel like, could absolutely help bring back Old Crow. All right, so I'm going to read you chapter 1, not the prologue and introduction. I'm going to read you chapter 1. Y'all ready? Ready for this? All right, I got to take a drink. Actually, let me see if I can hold it up here just like that. It's 0600 in Mosul, Iraq in May 2004, and I'm eager to open a package sitting at the foot of my bunk. Mail call is always special. A letter from home can shift your sick of this shit attitude to the will to go on to survive another day. This box was, how should I put this? Illegal. We can't buy alcohol in Iraq, I had written my friend home weeks ago. Because of our general orders, I need you to sneak whiskey in the mail to pass the MP's inspection. Here's what you do. Get a bottle of regular Listerine, dump it, and refill it with Jim Beam or Jack Daniels. It's pretty much the same color. They won't know the difference. 4 weeks later, my friend sent a package. I had picked it up the night before and listened to the beautiful sloshing inside the bottle. I knew sweet, precious whiskey awaited me, but I couldn't open it yet. I had to wait for tomorrow when I had the day off. Today, a long day of patrols and raids awaited my camera. My M16A2 and me. I laced up my boots, slid on my body armor, strapped on my Kevlar, and counted my rounds and attached a D-ring to my camera. Cinching it to my body armor strap, I touched the package and said, "Tonight, I'm going to sip ya." I hopped out the door with a smile on my face. Soon there would be whiskey, but first, patrols. If you saw me walking in Iraq, you would likely do a double take. A camera swayed back and forth as I gripped my weapon. Was I a soldier? Media? Truth is, I was both. I was an Army photojournalist, a staff sergeant whose job was to document the war. Some photos were classified, used to brief generals, and some were used in the media. I floated from unit to unit, knocking down doors, getting shot at, and documenting it all. On this day, I was attached to an infantry platoon, special forces team, and a squad of Iraqi military following up on intel on potential insurgent hideouts. The raid was somewhat unusual in that American forces were in an observer role and the Iraqis led the grunt stuff. Typically, when Iraqi forces were by our side, American forces mapped the routes and led the assaults. This time, the Iraqi soldiers created a mission plan and we followed up on intelligence about enemy forces. This was similar to how we trained stateside, where the NCOs and officers observed us execute our own missions. Only this was real, and we'd be knocking down doors and taking positions or engaging in combat with Iraqi soldiers in the front. The mission brief and our target was military aged men with weapons and information on insurgent activity. In other words, we were looking for lower ranking or middle management members of terrorist cells to rat on their bosses. Special forces walked side by side with the Iraqis, whose uniforms mimicked ours. Regular Iraqi army wore green and black battle dress uniforms. This outfit wore the same desert camo with the pants neatly tucked in their boots. They walked like us, too, even held their weapons the same way, with their finger across the firing area, but not on the trigger. For the first house, I stood behind a concrete barrier, photographing the Iraqis kick down the door as they screamed in Arabic. A woman and child ran out with their hands up. The Iraqis drew weapons on them, shouting. The situation escalated, and a special forces soldier and an interpreter strolled in, not with their weapons at the ready, and talked to the Iraqi soldier. I don't know what was said, but he patted the Iraqi on the back, and we went on to the next house. Here we found weapons. Not a full cache, but a couple of AK-47s and several full magazines. Nobody was home, though. They must have been tipped off that we were coming. In fact, of the dozen or so homes we raided, we found many AKs, but only women and children inside the buildings, leaving the commanders convinced that an Iraqi had leaked our mission beforehand. Nonetheless, for 12 hours, the sun radiated on my neck and through my body armor while the Iraqi streets superheated concrete seared my boots. The weatherman said it was 96 degrees, but it felt even hotter. Sweat traveled down my spine and up my calves and met in the middle. When I returned to the base, I jumped into the shower, my dog tag suctioned tight to my chest. All I could think about was the package and how good that whiskey would feel on my lips. I changed into my PTs, army speak for athletic gear, and went to Chow, where the Turkish cooks whipped up an incredible roast beef and carrots dish that I inhaled, washing it down with 2 cartons of milk. I was so ready for the whiskey, or so I thought. After a brief conversation in the barracks with my buddies, my eyelids felt heavy. Day off tomorrow or not, right now, I was more interested in sleep than whiskey. I laid my head on a folded OD green wool blanket and closed my eyes with my M16 across my chest. Just as my eyes were shutting and I found a comfortable position, an all too familiar whistle from overhead came closer, closer, and closer. My bunkmate Joe Peck jumped up and yelled, "Minnick! Bunker! Now!" Joe Peck jetted out the door, but I was slow to move. The whistle grew closer. I reached for my body armor, trying to sling it over my shoulder, but it was thick. It was stuck. My elbow poked out with my hand simply stuck in my body armor. In my haste to put on the armor, my watch had snagged. Closer. "Minnick, hurry your ass up!" Joe Peck screamed. An explosion pulsated through the base. The mortar was close, so close it rocked my living quarters. Many soldiers had been killed by the mortar attacks while we were sleeping in the bunks or walking to the latrine. They were no joke. I threw the body armor and ripped off my watch. Joe Peck returned. "Damn, that was close." Yeah, it was. And I definitely was not going back to bed now. I presumed another mortar would soon follow. The first. "Fuck it," I said to Joe Peck. "Want a whiskey?" "Huh?" "Yeah, that care package I got is whiskey." "Well, duh, let's drink that shit," he said. "I'll grab the smokes." I drew my pocket knife and slit the masking tape, cracked open the box, and pulled out a beautiful Listerine bottle. The child-proof closure had swelled, likely from that Iraqi heat pressuring the alcohol content. Air release, sounding like a small balloon deflating as I cracked it open. Sure enough, it smelled like whiskey. Just before we stepped outside our living quarters into the gravel alleyway between our neighbors, I poured 2 fingers into Joe Peck's metal canteen cup, and he lit a cigar while I drank straight from the jug. "Damn, that burns," I said. and it's so damn good. Joe Peck tilted his cup, the metal. Joe Peck tilted his cup, the metal ridges clinging against his teeth. That's good shit. We sat outside our living quarters wearing Army issued athletic gear. We sat outside our living quarters wearing Army issued athletic wear and flip flops, my head thrown down, the whiskey down my throat, tickling my belly. I looked up at the stars, wondering if they looked the same back home. So that's just a little bit from my from my book. I wanted to read that portion for you because it is the portion that kind of like fuses my my military and like a little bit of whiskey into my book, Bottom Shelf. And if you haven't already ordered, I it'd be awesome if you did. It will be there to your house or wherever you order it in February. But if you're watching on YouTube, just click the description, click the link in the description. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, comment the word shop for links. And if you are in Talk Shop Live, click the shop button. So this is a very special book to me. Obviously, I wrote it. Like, I don't think any author is going to say their book isn't special, but this is a book about my experience and kind of like what I went through in Iraq in a lot of ways. And you know, it is absolutely special to me. And I'm coming in here to kind of look at the comments from folks. I'm able to see some things. David Asbell says, "Dude, you're killing me. The book doesn't come out until February, but I want to read it now." I appreciate that, David. Uh, what if anyone has a question for me? Please, please, please drop it. However, you are watching this live stream. Um, let's see. Let's see. Do you all have any questions about bourbon, about my book? If you've got some questions about jujitsu or wrestling, I'll answer those. Kendra asks, for readers who want to develop their own tasting practice, whether for mindfulness, professional development, or just appreciation, what advice would you give them based on your journey? Well, my first advice is to not to put too much on your palate. The big thing is that a lot of people they'll take like this much and they'll just shoot it, right? So they'll get that and they'll go, woo, just stick it back up there on their mouth and just goes all the way back. It rips their throat out, it hurts, and it turns people away. So just taste a little bit, smell it, take your time smelling it, bring it to your nose, open your mouth just like that. And then when you open your mouth, you're relaxing your olfactory and you're able to pick up more than just the alcohol smell. So you just want to go side by side, really get to know it, right? Smell it. By saying get to know it, I mean like smell it helps you understand it when you're about to taste it. And when you taste it, put a little bit on your tongue and focus on what part of the tongue you feel it most prominently, like this. Which tonight I'm having a high rye peerless. I love high rye peerless. I was really in the mood for it. Um, and I get this on the back of my palate, right? So then I would taste again and I would focus on the back of my palate and try to see what flavors would come out from that. So that's some of it. To me, it's like slow step into it and don't drink too much. So Kendra, anyone who wants to become a professional taster, remind them this is not to be an alcoholic. This is to be a taster, not a drinker. Mike W asks a question. I already answered that. Christopher C says, have you tried Ironclad bourbons out of Newport News? They have the old Colonel straight whiskey. I have had that. Yes, I have. Christopher says, have you tried sparkling water to cleanse your palate? I have used sparkling water to cleanse my palate for ages. So that is a big one for me. I love sparkling water to cleanse my palate. It's a huge, huge, huge help. All right, let's see. Anyone got any questions? Footwork trainer. That's one of my son's coaches there. That's Isaac Nabel. You can go check him out. He's a former Indiana Hoosier wrestler. How did you get into bourbon? Well, I was always a bourbon fan, but really it was my wife that got me into bourbon as like making me less of a drinker, if you will, and more of a taster. So, yeah. Uh, Constitution State Coins asks, what are your thoughts on barrel seagrass? Barrel seagrass is was number 2 on my top 100 one year. Very much a fantastic whiskey. I'm not a fan of the gold label much as much as I am the green one. So if you someone just commented, Sammy Low SC says, what did I just turn on? So this is my virtual book signing event there, Sammy. This is my book, Bottom Shelf, and you can get signed copies right here on Talk Shop Live. Go to Talk Shop Live, click the shop button. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, comment shop for links. And if you're on YouTube, just hit the link in the description. Mike W. asks, I know it's a big question right now and it's been discussed, but if you could spend just a few minutes on where you think the state of bourbon is, I would be grateful. Well, Mike, I think it's an obvious situation where bourbon is down, is quite a bit down from where it used to be, right? It used to be pretty up, and now it's having some struggles. But the big thing is, like, I've seen the data, and it's having struggles on Jack Daniels. It's having struggles on Jim Beam and maybe like Knob Creek and like Standard Evan Williams. Where it's not having struggles is the ultra allocated stuff, or like the like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof or Larceny Barrel Proof. That stuff is actually up. I saw some data recently. People are not buying as much, but the dollar amount of what they're buying is actually more. So it's not talked about a lot because the industry is led by volume versus, amount. So what that means is the connoisseur market is growing. What is not growing is, the college kid graduating and going out and drinking afterward. That's not growing. And I think the market was skewed a lot because millennials drank so much. Like, to me, this is the elephant in the room. There has not been a generation since pre-prohibition that drank as much as millennials. I don't know what it was when, how they started becoming such drinkers, but they would drink it in ways that, I mean, they just drank a lot, and they did things that were obscene with the bottles of alcohol. I'll just put it there. M. Minnick there says, cheers to a fellow Minnick. Yeah, I like that, man. Cheers. Stewart asked the question. I feel like the ascot has been missing. Is it back now? Looking good. Um, the ascot has not been on my body as much. That is true, because my life is so much around taking my kids to places, or going to jujitsu or wrestling or some kind of like place where the ensemble doesn't fit. But if I'm out if I'm at an event, I'm wearing the ascot. So I think Stuart, it's fair to say that the ascot is probably going to be making special occasions for events, occasional videos, but but like with my show with Jared Allen, that's not probably not going to be, popping that on there, very often. Uh, but the truth is like it's never going away. It's never going away. By the way, I tell the story in the book, but this is the first ascot I ever received. So you'll learn about how I received it in the book. And that book, of course, is Bottom Shelf. You can get it on Talk Shop Live. Just hit the shop button, hit comment shop in Facebook and Instagram, and hit the description. Hit the link in the description for it in YouTube. So let's see what other questions we got. All right. Gregory L. How has mindfulness and jujitsu helped you heal in life after your service to our country? I mean, it's been everything. Mindfulness basically helped me take the edge off in a lot of ways, and it helped me find the new me. And jujitsu came later in life. Jujitsu kind of was like, I would say would be like the 3.0 of my healing process, because well, I got my mental side of things down, my anxiety down, and PTSD down. I never really got in a good groove physically. And when I found jujitsu, it basically uh, reawoken the wrestler inside me. So I wrestled growing up, and it reawoke that, and I was so happy with that. It was so amazing. And so I kind of like now, I mean, I lost 40 pounds. I'm kind of in a rut now. Like I lost the 40 pounds, and now I've been in a rut. I haven't continued the losses, but I'm going to make a push here to drop another 20, because I'm still, I'm okay. I'm at the weight right now in jujitsu, which is like is good. I had a buddy tell me if I lost any more weight, it'd be victim weight. It's because he's a big guy, and he's like really into smashing. And so if you're like a bigger guy in jujitsu, it's like you smash people, you can win by smashing people. So that kind of like went to a whole nother world, a whole nother direction. But anyway, it just okay. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Great question, though. Brockman, Ed said he had a few drinks in the golf as well. Yeah, we had to sneak him in, right? We had to sneak him in. Um, let's see. Remember, if you have questions, make sure you use the question mark so I can see it. It comes out. Um, it comes out. I can see it easier. Tim H. Have the locations for the book tour been finalized? They have not been. I'm awaiting for my publisher to give me those details. But you can get a signed copy tonight here on Talk Shop Live. Just click the shop button on Talk Shop Live, and then enter shop in Facebook and Instagram, or you can hit the link in the description on YouTube. But we will be having those details very, very soon, Tim. In fact, I think I have a meeting next week. Mike W., I believe you have spoken previously about the fact that your process for the top 100 is going to be different this year. Can you describe any of the changes, if any? Well, um, I think the big thing is I will not be tasting 100 at a time. I just can't taste like that anymore. I can't. Like, I think getting older might have an impact on it. My desire for physical gains, and being able to like, work out for like long periods of time, I think have had an impact on that as well. So I can't taste the same amount in one setting like I had in the past. So I think what we're probably going to do this year is I'll release a list. I'll have like I may end up ranking, the top, you know, say like here's the top 100. Like these are the brands that are going to be in the top 100, and then like taste them in my own time, but not on camera, and then rank them like that, and then take the top 10 or top 15, and then do the live blind tasting. I think that's probably what's going to happen, Mike, and that's really more than anything, because like I went back and I watched some of the old stuff, and I'm like, man, I'm I'm not doing well here, so I gotta clean that up. And it's also it definitely better for me physically, for sure. Um, nobody nobody can comprehend what it's like to uh taste the have all that on your tongue. Tim, I wonder if 100 and a night was a Guinness World Record. What do you think? Uh, Truth is, Tim, the Guinness Book of World Record wants money to give you a record. Like if you may recall, if you're a subscriber to my YouTube channel, which I hope you are, you may recall that there was a moment where I live streamed a fermentation. So I did a live stream of a fermentation at Rabbit Hole, and I was going to say, like, I did it for 24 hours, and I was going to say, like, hey, this is a world record of somebody live streaming a fermentation. And Guinness wanted like $30,000 for me to verify that live stream. And I was like, I ain't paying that. I mean, either it's a record or it's not. Me paying you is not going to change the fact that it's a record. But then you got to look at it as like, that's how they make their money, right? They're not selling books anymore. I mean, nobody's going to to buy a Guinness Book of World Records book like I did in 6th grade to see the who the tallest person in the world was. But I did do that in the 6th grade because it was cool back then. Philip asked a question. Is the process changing because those who help pour and clean glasses drank too much during the live stream? That's a great question, Philip. I will not. I will neither confirm nor deny that that statement, which I feel like was a statement, not a question, because my wife was on the pouring team last year. But that's actually pretty funny. That's pretty funny. And yes, that may have happened. All right, y'all, keep those questions in. This is my new book, of course, Bottom Shelf: How a Forgotten Brand of Bourbon Saved One Man's Life. And you can get a signed copy tonight on Talk Shop Live. Just hit the shop button. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, comment shop. And if you are on YouTube, just go to the link in the description. And the book is about my life and how I came to be a bourbon critic, and I would ended up, chasing one particular brand, an Old Crow, which had all of these mysteries behind it. The man behind it was named James C. Crow, who is basically bourbon lore. People like saying like he redefined bourbon, was the father of modern bourbon. We don't really know much about him, but I tell the story of who he really was. And we don't know, Old Crow went from being the belle of the ball, being Daniel Webster's bourbon, to being President Grant's bourbon, to being what would win everyone's palate over in the mid 1900s, to basically being a bottom shelf product after Jim Beam bought it in 1987. And so I tell the story of what happened to Dr. Crow and what happened to Old Crow, and basically what was happening to me along the way. And it's basically, the book took about 20 years to research and write, and this book is truly my truly my heart and soul. And it's such an important book to me for a lot of reasons. I talk about coming home from Iraq, and how therapy taught me how to taste, and how I kind of managed and coped with a bunch of bullshit going on in my life. So yeah. Christopher C. Did Old Crow change their mash bill or location? Well, I think some of that we're going to need you to. That might be one of those where I want you to wait for the book. I don't know if that's a little nugget I wanna break just yet. I mean, we're just sipping whiskey here, Christopher. Mm. Well, they told me that I had about an hour for this, maybe a little bit over an hour. So get your questions in, and if the Talk Shop Live folks say I can keep going, just text me, and I'll keep going. Gregory asked the question: any personal advice on people struggling with anxiety and depression coping strategies? Absolutely, Gregory. That is something that I am very, very active with in the book. I share all the things that work for me. One one technique in a moment of high anxiety that I use is a mindfulness technique with like touching something, like a quarter, something that has like a lot of texture to it. So like what I'll do is like let's say I'm in a crowded place and I'm feeling anxious. I feel like there's might be car bomb kind of feels to it, and I intellectually know they're not. I might kind of go to a nice spot where I can concentrate, and I'll hold the quarter and I'll close my eyes and I'll think about it and I'll touch the ridges, the side ridges, and I'll just completely try to connect with the ridges of the quarter. I'll rub over the head of George Washington, and the whole point is to get my mind off of whatever I was feeling out in the crowd and focus on the quarter. And that grounding technique will help me kind of reset. And that's something I talk about all the coping techniques that I use, and I talk about like how I did cognitive behavioral therapy where I would write out all the things happening to me and and how I felt, and um it would be it was very powerful for me to write about that because I'm like, I mean, all these years later, I still use that stuff, you know what I mean? So that's a very basic grounding technique that I use. Tim H asked, "What am I sipping on tonight?" I'm not having a big night of sipping. I'm having something that I've been thinking about for a minute, and that is I'm a really big fan of the high rye bourbon from Peerless. It was absolutely delicious, and I liked uh, it. It absolutely had a lot of. I was looking for something spicy, something sweet, and it really did play a role in that. Play a role in me. Yeah, I'm reading the questions and trying to answer Tim's questions at the same time, and I'm going all over the place here. But I really was wanting some high rye bourbon, and I think the Peerless high rye bourbon is like one of my favorites. It's really sweet, but it has a lot of spice to it, and that's kind of what I was craving before I did this. Christopher with another question here. It's a personal question. You don't have to answer, of course. Since I'm saying it, I'm not going to answer it. Does faith play a role in your grounding? You know what? I think it does. I think it does. And I'm a Christian. I come from I grew up in an evangelical kind of setting, but I became Catholic as an adult. And and I think they're both great, in their own way. But the thing about Catholicism is there's a lot of sensory in there, and like I love going into the old Catholic churches, and I love the smell of them, and I love the sound of the wood as it kind of like shakes. So I think like anything where I can activate my senses is very helpful for me from a mental perspective. I like I was telling my son this the other day, like I love going out into the cold because I feel alive, right? I feel alive when I'm in the cold. Like when I'm hot, I just feel like I'm hot. I love sweating. I don't sweat a lot, but when I'm in the cold, I feel like alive. It's a weird. I don't know how else to explain that, but great question, Christopher. Thank you for asking. Um, Uh, Philip says, "Congrats to Peerless High Rye for massive price increase or not being on the shelf for a while after tonight." Philip out there talking about like the old Minnick effect. That's funny. All right, get your questions in. I have not been giving um I've not been given the old hook of saying like, all right, you got to wrap it up, but I'm sure that's going to come. So get the questions in. I'm happy to answer anything. Of course, I'm really excited to be talking about my new book, right here, bottom shelf. You can get it tonight. Go to Talk Shop Live and hit the shop button. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, hit the word, comment the word shop for links to order. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description. So this book right here, it is my heart and soul with a lot of bourbon. So yeah, let's get those questions in. If you have any other questions, a lot of people were wanting to know what was in my glass tonight. I didn't realize how many people were asking that. Juan Flores asked, "What branch of service?" I was Army. I was Army National Guard. I was sent to Nicaragua, and of course Iraq. So that would be what I was in. Juan, did you serve? If so, thank you for your service. Also, a big shout out to anybody who served. People don't realize what it means to put on the uniform and how you feel it so many years later. For me, the military, it was a great honor. I loved every minute of it, but I still wake up in the middle of the night in fear that I'm going to miss formation. You hear about people saying they're going to miss a test. I'm afraid of a first sergeant putting a boot up my ass because I miss formation. You know that was so traumatizing. All right, you know what? I think I've answered a lot of these questions. Some good comments, really good comments coming in from the chat. 180 Dental, was this book released more intense than than Camera Boy? Yeah, yeah, it is, and you'll see why when you open it up. The prologue, you'll see why. You'll see why. I share I share a moment of when I wasn't almost here, and it's not the one I shared before. So this is a highly personal, highly personal thing to share, and I did it because I didn't know how else to show people or tell people how messed up I was. Yeah. So that's how I start the book. And I kind of still don't know how to talk about it. So I'm figuring it out as I go along about how to talk about it. Yeah, but that particular section, I'm very comfortable talking about my recovery of PTSD, and I'm very excited about talking about Old Crow and all those other things. But I mean, I just ripped a Band-Aid right off, and I didn't know how else to write this book any other way. To be honest with you. And so, John, you asked a question of all the books you've written, what is your favorite? Um, it is this one right here. This is my absolute favorite book. And it's my favorite book because and I said this before, it's my favorite book because I get to show how much my wife means to me and what she did for me. So, yeah. All right, McGlynn Karen wants me to read. Can you please read the first 3 sentences of the first paragraph of chapter 3? Okay, let's see what we got here. That'll be fun. Okay, so this is the first 3 sentences of chapter 3. The title is Obsession. It was 2010. Oh shoot, that already. So I don't know if I can read it because it reveals a little hint of the beginning. Shoot. Give me how about chapter 4? I'll do 4. How about that? I'll do 4 of chapter 4. Okay. There we go. This one will help you. This is what you're wanting here. So this is chapter 4, Finding Crow. So I couldn't do chapter 3 because it revealed something in the beginning that I don't want you to know about yet. I want you to read it. I want to tell you because I'm kind of like, I'm not there yet. All right, here we go. Chapter 4, Finding Crow. His left arm leaning against a bulging whiskey barrel, James C. Crow looks directly into the camera with raised, bushy black eyebrows, a gray beard, and the only smile in an 1850 Oscar Pepper, later LeBron and Graham Distillery group photo. The rest of the crew is straight faced, with hands folded or tucked inside their jackets. Crow is dressed formally, but appears the opposite. He is perched on a low stool or stump, dressed in a button up vest and black coat that matches his trousers, a white shirt, and a bow tie. But he seems laid back. His hands are pushed deeply in his pant pockets, and he wears the smirk of a prankster or a fella who knows something the others don't. So that is the first four sentences of the first four sentences of chapter 4. John D says chapter 3 is kicking ass, Scott. I actually really like that. Yeah, that's that's funny. I like that a lot. Okay, so Tim asks, share the story about your first bourbon experience in Louisville after you moved to Kentucky. When the bartender gave you one on the house. Welcome to Kentucky. All right, so Tim, it sounds Tim's had an advanced copy of the book. So I used to go. I basically trained my palate and learned about bourbon through bartenders in Louisville, and there was one place called Bistro 301. It's no longer open, but I was talking with the bartender, and he poured me Pappy Van Winkle, and I took the Pappy and I shot it back. I was like, "Woo!" I freaking like took a shot of Pappy like it was Jameson or Fireball. Oh yeah, that was, looking back, that was pretty embarrassing because that was one of those Stitzel Weller bottles that sell for like 40 grand now. But yeah, that was something else. That was something else. Um, yeah, man. So we're gonna have time for a few more questions. Get those questions in. I've got an early morning tomorrow. Like I gotta drive clear across the state. My son's got a big wrestling tournament on the other side of the state. So, you all know me. Like pretty much on the weekends, I'm every day I'm full bore dad. Like it's like that's the most important thing to me is dad, being a husband. That's the most important thing to me, and that's something I try to really talk about in the book. And there was a moment that I failed. I really did. I dropped the ball completely. I completely failed, and I'm very open about my failures in the book and when I suck, right? I don't think I've ever been any different. So if you got any questions, get them in here quickly before we're going to wrap up, probably 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. But the book, my new book is Bottom Shelf, How a Forgotten Brand of Bourbon Saved One Man's Life. I'm that one man. And you can get copies on YouTube. Just click the link in the description. On Facebook or Instagram, click or comment the word shop for links. And on Talk Shop Live, click the shop button for a signed copy. John asked a question: when are you coming back to Nashville? Well, I'll probably be in Nashville. Jared Allen's supposed to teach me how to do curling, so that's going to be that'll be interesting. So I'm supposed to go do curling with him in Nashville at some point. Where should I go in Nashville, John? I bet you're going to say the Whiskey House. Chris says Glens Creek claims to have Old Crow's yeast strain plus some wild yeast strain. Have you tried it? What do you think? I love Glens Creek. Glens Creek's in the book. They're very important to this book. They helped. They basically helped me solve some things, and I hope I gave them the proper respect that they deserve. But I love David. Without David, this book is not. David helped me solve a mystery in this book, and I'm very thankful for him on that. So I love Glens Creek. Can't say enough good things about him. Mike W. Off the wall question here, but I'm attending a dinner next week where Drew Mayville will be the speaker. It's focused around the Weller products. What would you ask of a master blender? How does he hide? How can you hide a musty barrel in a blend? So a barrel that has some mustiness to it. How would they eliminate that must? Olivia asked, Dylan wants to know, what is your favorite part about your career and why? Holy crap. Ooh, great question, Dylan. You know, I gotta be honest here. I think so much of falling in love with this place of bourbon has been the chase. It's been the chase of knowledge for me. I know a lot of people it's been the bottle chase of like scoring a special bottle, but for me it has been chasing James Crow and Old Crow and finding out what happened to them. And that moment was born when Jason Bronner of Bourbon's Bistro gave me a pour of the Old Crow Chessman. And that was basically kind of what made me what I am, and I mean, I basically explained the entire book right there in those few sentences. So that's basically that's the entire book of Bottom Shelf. I'd love for you to read it, but I just summarized the whole thing there for you. Philip B says recording the audio version of your book. How's that experience been? And was it emotionally was it as emotionally as you expected? Yeah, I've teared up several times. I'm still working on it, and it has been an absolute it's been something else really to relive some of those moments, because I talk about, I mean, like right here. So this is Dave Pickerel, right? Dave Pickerel is like this really important person in my life. I have its dedication to him over here. And you know, and I write about losing him. I write about being in the room with my father-in-law when he passed away, and those things. And I write about the times we tried to have kids and we lost them. I write about some deeply powerful, emotional, difficult things to write about. And when I reread those, when I read them out loud and they were played back to me, I mean, I teared up, and I felt it in my soul. And then like the people at Spotify, they've been incredible working with me, but that is reading. I've never read one of my own books for audio, but it's freaking hard. It's hard because you relive it, but it's also hard because like, it ain't easy like going through it and without stuttering. I mean, just natural process. So yeah, great question. Yeah, so gonna wrap up here, here in a minute. Gregory says, having a special event at Gertie's Bar or 404 Kitchen in Nashville would be perfect. I like it, Gregory. There's a bookstore in Nashville called Perseus, Palomic, something with a P, is like super famous amongst authors. And I've never done a book signing with them. I don't, so that like if it's the one, hold on, I'm gonna Google it. Nashville bookstore. Parnassus. That's like a super famous bookstore for authors. Like if an author gets a book signing at this place, then it's like a really big deal. So call up that bookstore. I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay. I think I can put it in the chat. I'm going to try to put it in the chat and say, hey, you should do, you should say like, hey, you should have Fred Minnick come to your store. I think I think that would work. I think that would get him to maybe that would get him to book me. I don't know. But for real, everyone, if you want a signed copy tonight on Talk Shop Live, this is actually a really big honor for me. Like if you take a look at the authors that they have had, um, I'm like, they've had like people like Oprah on here, and Kenny Chesney on here, and so they're really slumming at the bottom of the barrel to have me on. So I'm very thankful for Talk Shop Live. So if you haven't already, at the very least, support Talk Shop Live for having me on to let them know that bourbon authors are good people to have on because we show up and we talk and we like talking about whiskey, and go to Talk Shop Live and hit that shop button to get a signed copy for yourself. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, click, enter shop in the comment section. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, simply, click the link in the description. But I'm just so thankful that you all joined me. We had 1,000 people come on tonight and hang out with us, which is a real honor to have so many folks here wanting to come on and listen to me talk about my new book. And it really is, bottom shelf really is, it's me kind of opening up my heart and telling my story, and that's never easy. you know it's never easy to do that, and you all have helped give me the courage, because once you get this book, I think you'll understand. um, you've helped give me the courage to talk more about it, and I'm not afraid to do it. But you all being here and giving me a chance to talk about it, you're part of that story. You're part of me uh, being able to get out there and talk about it, because that's really where it all began. It really did begin with me telling someone how I recovered from PTSD, using taste mindfulness, or at least in part taste mindfulness. And that happened 4 or 5 years ago, and it turned into this book. You know, and I'm telling you, it is anyone who's ever been through anything that's hard. Um, there's getting through it, right? There's getting through the trauma, but talking about it is a whole. It can be a whole nother level of trauma, because you got the fear of what will people think, how will it be perceived. And when I first told my story on the Today Show about how I used taste mindfulness to recover from the Iraq War and nearly dying in Iraq, um, I had a lot of therapists reach out to me and say that I helped them with their job. I helped get people in therapy. I helped take away the um, the fear of going into therapy, the stigma of therapy. And I'm just telling you, it saved my life. I'm not saying like you need to go to therapy because like, someone cut you off in a parking lot and you've got angry, and you got really angry about that. You probably should deal with that anger. But I'm telling you that therapy saved my life, and taste mindfulness was a part of that. And I talk about that in this book, and how I got into bourbon, and how I kind of, weaved it all into what it is, my life, you know. And so um that's what this is, and I can't thank you all enough for checking it out. Um please, please, please get a signed copy. Tell a friend, hit up Talk Shop Live. I'd love to come back if Talk Shop Live will have me back. But it's a real honor to be here, and you all are a big part of that story for me. So thank you for being a part of my community, and thank you so much for believing in me to just jump on tonight to say hello. So that's going to do it, everyone. Cheers. This is my book. Check it out. Go to Talk Shop Live, hit the shop button, enter shop in Facebook or Instagram, or hit the link in the description. But I'm so thankful that you all have came and hung out with me tonight. Cheers.